Welcome to the Change of Film podcast. My name is Gerard Uselli. We are on episode 23. We are really roaring up the 20s on this one. And I must say, all walks of life have definitely been embraced on this platform. And I'm really excited about our next guest. Amazing music, has done tremendous things, especially throughout the pandemic. I give her all the credit in the world. So my next guest for tonight, joining us, Luna Ora. Luna, how are you
Hello.
today?
Thank you for that intro.
Absolutely. So something I like to ask all of my guests, just going into the podcast itself, is what your childhood was like growing up.
Or we're just going to get right into it.
Yep.
I like that. I love that. You got Moxie.
There we go, right?
Yeah, what was my childhood like? I grew up in Arizona. So I was a desert rat. I was actually born in Fallbrook, so near San Diego, or I believe in San Diego. And my parents moved to Arizona when I was a little bit younger, so I pretty much grew up there. But I grew up in a pretty big family. We had 5 kids in our family.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, my dad was a police officer. And my mom was like, she was working jobs all the time. She was always working, doing something. It was either that or staying home with the kids. But yeah, my dad ended up becoming like a homicide detective. And yeah, my siblings and I grew up, went to school, just a normal upbringing, nothing crazy. I was actually in the Mormon church for a little while as well. So I had a little bit of a religious upbringing. But yeah, I mean, what else would you like to know?
Sure. So something I'm curious about this, because especially on the fact of maybe shows relating to what your dad has done for a living. So it's kind of funny because on my dad's side, between him and my sister, they love watching all the murder mystery shows. And I'm like polar opposite for the most part. My closest denominator is Forensic Files. What are some shows that you used to like growing up if you were into that as well?
Okay, so I'm really into that kind of stuff. I was like, my dad will tell you, he used to take me to Blockbuster and he would just like let me go in the kids area and be like, rent any movie you want. And I would like find my way in the horror section, into the horror section. And I would like, he said one time he was waiting in line and I showed up and I was holding Bordello of Blood. And I was like, Dad, can I get this one? And I was like 7 years old and people in line were looking at him like, how are you letting your child watch this type of movie? It's a
Now,
memory he
did
will
he
literally never let me live down, but he of course was like, you need to go put that back immediately. But yeah, no, I've always been really into kind of like horror and scary movies and like that adrenaline rush and like true crime. And my dad used to talk to me about like stuff that he would see and things that he would have to do at work as a homicide detective because I was like super interested in it and he knew that. I'm sure he hid a lot of stuff from me, but for the most part he would tell me like all the cool stuff and I loved it. I would just like soak it all up. But as far as shows, I don't really watch shows like that anymore. I'm
I
more of
got
like
you.
I can't do it. I feel like you get to a certain age and you realize like how serious, like the seriousness of life, and you're just like, oh, this is just kind of messed up.
And then the inevitable aspects of ADD, especially in our common age society.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I mean, they have to, yeah, it's so funny. Like I try to watch docuseries that are like crime-based docuseries, and it's just like they always have you on the edge of your seat, but at the same time, you're just like, I know they're just setting me up for something right now. It's not really, they're not going to tell me what's happening. Like I'm not going to find out till the very end. Yeah. So
Now,
you have to stay focused.
Now, another question is, was your dad kind of like the play-by-play guy as far as like if there's any sense of continuity errors in a show, would he always be that type of guy to point it out to you?
Yes, 1000%. Yeah. If there was anything that had to do with like being a detective or a cop or anything on television, he would always just be like, that doesn't happen in real life. Like CSI, he's just like CSI is like all made up. Like 80% of it is fake. There's only like little parts of it that are actually accurate. But yeah, he loves taking the piss out of the situation and being like, that's not real.
I
That's not
gotcha.
real. What he really did enjoy the last two that came out, the Cecil Hotel. He thought that that was a great documentary series, and then he also really enjoyed Murder Among the Mormons, which just got released on Netflix just recently, and apparently like it's incredible.
Oh, I could only imagine the quarantine conversations on that. It's like, oh, I got to catch you up on this show, that show, that show.
Oh my God, it's all we talk about now. It's like, hey, have you seen this? Have you seen that? Like that's just all I talk about now with my family. It's so unfortunate.
Now, the fortunate part about that is alongside the shows, the family gets to share your music as well. So, going off your narrative, creating your EP, Three Cheers for American Beauty, did you feel like you were designed to grow up the way that you did?
Um, Designed by who?
So, something interesting from your website as far as how you created like the story behind it, and it was talking about the design, like being designed to feel this way.
Ah,
So I
yeah,
wanted
yeah,
to
yeah.
bridge that continuity into the question.
No, absolutely. Yeah. So in that sense, when I talk about design, I'm more so talking about it in a facetious way, obviously. Designed in other people's eyes, right? For example, growing up as a young woman in American culture, or just like growing up as a young woman in any culture, I think is difficult, and it comes with a lot of obstacles and expectations of what you are supposed to be like, how you're supposed to act, how you're supposed to behave, how you're supposed to treat other people. I mean, there's a whole long list of like to-dos of what women are supposed to do and what they're supposed to be. I think it also exists for men. I'm just not familiar with that experience, so it's hard for me to talk about that, but I'm not against pointing out that, like, it's not just women that have it bad. Like, men have to, bring home the bacon and like not show their emotions, and you can't be
Hey, turkey
sensitive. Boy,
bacon's my favorite.
yeah, bring home the bacon, baby. Yeah, you're supposed to like be the main support for your family. You're supposed to like come home and like not show any emotions. And there's a whole long list for men too. I think the rules that have been set in place to for how we were supposed to be designed, to me is just all kind of silly, right? Because we're all very different from one another, and we all come from very different places. And one thing I can say is I'm very thankful for how I grew up. I think I learned how to be a good person, and how to care for people, and treat people with respect through my religious upbringing, um, my parents raising me to be that way. I had a very loving family growing up, so I can definitely say that I feel very lucky and thankful for my upbringing, even if that means that, in my adulthood, I still am sort of ridding myself of things that no longer serve me.
Absolutely. And kind of another point to that as well. So, as you were kind of going into your own zone as far as being a musician, understanding yourself and your artistry, one thing that stands out with you, especially in the short time that I've known about you and your music, is that your wardrobe choices are something that stands out. It's very unique. The style really speaks for itself. And I definitely respect it because it makes you one of a kind, especially in today's market. So, as far as that's concerned, like what inspires you to keep pushing the envelope?
I've always really been into fashion. It's something I've really enjoyed, and I didn't grow up with money. And a lot of the time you'll hear people say like it costs money to have a style. It's and it's funny because I proved that to be wrong growing up, because I would, always go to like Goodwill or thrift stores and secondhand stores and like pick out outfits and piece together things that made me look like I had a style, and it's just something I've always been really interested in. I've also always had an affinity for retro looks, 50s, 60s, early 70s. When I was in high school, I used to like show up to school literally in like little 50s dresses and high heels. And like, I just like always was dressing the part. I don't really know why I feel so drawn to those eras, but I just do. And I think you can see that in how I dress now. I like to wear, when I'm getting all dressed up for Luna Aura, for
Nor.
this creature that I've created, right? This monster. Um, yeah, I like to wear, long gloves and, very like retro looking and fitted dresses. And Yeah, I like to really dress it up, but also add that sort of goth, that dark sort of witchy vibe as well, because I'm also I also have that half of me. So I don't know. I want to keep pushing the envelope, and I know that at some point in time, you know, when it comes to like red carpets or like anything in my future where I'm gonna have to really get dressed up, award shows and that kind of stuff, I'm definitely going to push the envelope and have a lot of fun doing that.
Do you have any favorite like fashion designers?
I do. So I love Ellie Saab, who's I believe an Egyptian. I could be totally wrong, but I'm pretty sure he's Egyptian. And he designs like these incredible gowns that are just unbelievable, like otherworldly. I do love Chanel. Chanel's another one of my favorites. I just, you know, Chanel's like the perfect classic. She's got a lot of like retro kind of feeling things, very modest. I love modesty as well because I think that there's a lot of power in modesty. Um, yeah, but I mean I can't think of any more off the top of my head, but I just I guess I can't. I just
You're
too
just
many of
like
them. I love them
you and the
all.
Jeopardy music on that one.
Yeah, like Marc Jacobs is also really good. There's some good ones out there. Oh, it's too much.
I will say this with Chanel, and this is coming from a guy's perspective. I feel like when people, men or women, trying to do something a little bit more of a left turn as far as twisting the styles around,
Yeah.
I feel like Chanel is that name recognition where it's like, I wonder if Chanel can ever get goth. I feel like that's the first template of examples for people to give it a shot.
Yeah, so I mean, I think that a lot of the time that's sort of my vibe is I like that very classic Chanel look, but just with a dark witchy twist. And I also like I just started practicing witchcraft too. So I've like just been getting a little bit more into those types of styles, that kind of dark vibe.
So of course you're probably going to say dark colors as far as your favorite colors. However, I'm going to ask you this: what's your favorite bright color?
My favorite I love green. Green is my favorite color.
Green is very underrated. I feel like it just blends with a lot of color palettes and it has a unique mix as far as what you can have in paintings and different styles of art.
I agree. Yeah, no, I think green is such a great color. I feel like when people think of green, they just think of like one specific type of green and they're just kind of like, oh, you
They
know,
think
that's
of
not
Gumby, to
fun.
be
You know,
honest.
like pink is fun, purple's fun, green is just no. No, I also I feel very connected to nature too, so I think that's a huge reason why I love like green, and I love earthy tones and darker colors. But yeah, I don't know. There's I love all colors equally.
Well,
All
there's
the
always
colors
a
of the
reason to
rainbow.
have them in a lot of ways, especially when you try. I talk to a lot of people, especially within like the toy industry and just understanding a sense of like identity in toy
Totally.
products and stuff like that. There is a purpose for almost anything as far as colors are concerned.
Oh yeah, definitely. There's a lot of symbolism behind colors, just like there is with, you know, flowers or plants or anything else, you know?
For sure. And kind of in the sense, as far as just like keeping yourself busy, which I give you a lot of credit for with getting your songs out in the film industry and TV with the pandemic. Here's an interesting question. What was it like to hear your music on a TV show compared to radio?
Compared to radio. Okay, so you know, radio is that moment when you hear your song on the radio. It's like that dream you've always had, you know, from when you were like a child and you hear your song on the radio, you're like, "Mom, I did it. I
Hmm.
made it." Right? And I've actually had my song played on the radio a lot for the last like probably like 6 years. There've been definitely like alternative stations and like Sirius XM. People have been playing my songs for a while on the radio. So I sort of got over the whole like my song's on the radio thing. But then once I saw my song like in a scene in a television show, I was just like, this is so cool. Like I felt like it was so much cooler in so many ways. I think too because I love film and I love television. Like I'm obsessed with it. And so for me to be able to see my art, you know, put together another piece of art in such like a masterful way is so exciting for me.
Absolutely. And like just going back to the sense of being such a big movie and TV person for yourself, what's one movie, maybe a classic in this case, that you've always liked that you feel like your music can fit into? Like, is there like an iconic scene that you've always liked and you're like, wow, I wish my music could be in this?
I mean, Fight Club would be really cool.
I
Fight
could see
Club
that with
is
Honey.
right.
I could see
Yeah,
Honey in that.
right. Yeah, and I think the Pixies have a song at the end of that movie that is just like unbelievable. It's like the perfect moment. I'm so jealous.
That's
But
right.
right
That's
at
why
the
I love
end, right
Pixies
when
now.
everything's like falling. Um yeah, I think Fight Club would be a really good one, or The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo would be really cool.
Ooh, good choice
Karen O
on
did
that.
a Karen O did like a really awesome cover for the beginning credits of that film. So if you ever go back and watch it, it's unbelievable. So yeah, those are definitely the two movies that I would die if I had music in them.
Now, going to that point, because I could see based on some of the scenes that you had your music in, it takes a lot of high energy, and the transpiration in your live shows before the pandemic speaks for itself. So, being now that it's like severely adapted, how do you keep your energy going as far as making new music, knowing that the circumstances of performing live aren't going to be up to par for a little bit of time? So, like, does that kind of like impact how you write music today?
Yeah, I mean it's always really weird having to like do Zoom sessions versus like being in the room with someone. The energy is obviously very different, but I've gotten really used to it, honestly, and I haven't ran into any issues, thank God, as far as creativity is concerned. I the way that I write anyways, I like to be alone. So I'll usually like will write the music and then take the song and like go sit with it, or like go take a walk and like write the lyrics and doing it that way. So it hasn't been too bad over Zoom because I'll just like mute myself and like and like turn off my camera and just sit there with the song and write like how I usually would. But I also had to shift what I was writing for. So I was doing a lot of writing for my artist project last year. Um, I'm sorry, the year prior. And leading into the pandemic, it was just kind of like, okay, well, there's not going to be any live shows. There's not going to be a whole lot of time to spend, focusing on, just an artist project. I couldn't put all of my eggs in that one basket. So I started doing a lot more writing for sync, a lot more writing for pitch, so for other people. And yeah, and I was probably in like 3 or 4 sessions a week all year last year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, just writing constantly. And I'm like, honestly, I'm so burnt out. I'm over it. I don't want to write. I have like 3 weeks of 0 sessions, not writing anything, and I'm really excited. And then in the middle of April, I'm gonna go to Nashville and write with JT Daly again, who's the guy that I did my last EP with. So I'm really excited about that.
Oh, this brings up an interesting point. So, I'm curious with a lot of artists, I've noticed, especially later in people's careers, they like to travel to one location and have a recording session of getting their music out into the world, as far as
Yeah.
like a change of scenery and things of that sort. Is Nashville the first time you're actually doing that in your sense of writing and trying to find a story in a new perspective?
Um, yes, sort of. Yeah. Well, I mean, I haven't really been able to go anywhere at all year
Oh,
long,
fair enough. Yeah.
obviously. Yeah. So yeah, this will be different for me, and I'm excited to not write for a little while so that I can just like be a human and consume my life and like soak it all in so I can get some sort of inspiration before I go into these sessions. But it is going to be so awesome being in a different environment. And like, luckily, I've been able to get my vaccine, so I can travel safely, and it's gonna be awesome. I honestly cannot wait.
That's why I got vaccinated too. So I just got through my second dose, and yeah,
Good for you. Awesome.
pain
Wait,
was there.
where do you
However,
live?
say it again.
Where do you live?
I live in Staten Island, New York.
There you go. And you got your vaccine. That's great. That's awesome.
It's really a benefit of going into the teaching field and bringing up your essentiality in that way. You got to find any loophole that you can.
Oh, totally. I have like underlying health conditions that I've just sort of been like sitting and biting my nails and being like, "Oh God, when do I get my vaccine?" I finally got it here in Los Angeles. And I honestly like it was such an emotional experience for me afterwards because it's just like you get that rush of like, "Oh my God, I've been on my toes for an entire year, like thinking like I'm either going to pass this to somebody else or I'm going to catch it myself." And it was awesome getting the first one. I get my second one on the 27th. I cannot wait.
Oh yeah, definitely
So
rooting for you
excited.
on that one.
Thank you.
100%.
Yeah,
So,
everyone needs to go get freaking vaccinated. Do it.
for any point of this podcast, there's the lesson for everybody.
There you go. Go get vaccinated. Don't be an asshole.
It's funny. So something that stood out to me, I love social media branding. I'm very big into it as far as like with my podcast. So something I've noticed with your Instagram particularly is how you share your playlist. I think the storytelling on that's really cool. Just going through like somebody's Spotify and seeing the sense of empathy as far as like, well, the things that I'm constrained to, especially in a quarantine, what am I listening to? What's the world's listening to at the same time in this case? So I'm curious about this. If you brought back Coachella in a new normal, who's headlining every week?
Oh my God. How many weeks?
So I think it's 4 weeks for Coachella. So think about like a headliner or two per
Damn.
week.
2 per week. I gotta really think about this. All right. So I've been really into Megan the Stallion lately. I
Nice.
love her. I
She's
think
amazing.
she's the sickest thing since Lil Kim. I really do. I think she's so hard and so cool. And I honestly just want to be her. So that's the truth about that. And who I would bring back together. Let's see. I would bring like Rage Against the Machine back together for Coachella.
I've noticed a little bit of influence in your music, like with them.
Oh
It's
yeah.
very cool. It's very cool for me to do something like
Thank
that.
you. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, no, I definitely I definitely channeled a little bit of Rage and some Nine Inch Nails in my tunes, and I'm hoping to like continue to sort of bring a modern twist to that for the new generation that didn't really get to enjoy it the same way that a lot of us did. But yeah, Rage Against the Machine. There's a girl named Ashniko that I really love. She's just like super bitchy and awesome, and I love bitchy women. That's me, witchy and bitchy. Let's go. Royal Blood is another good one.
Oh my God, they're amazing.
Incredible live.
Yeah.
I had no idea who they were, and I saw them at a festival in Las Vegas. And literally, my friend had to like looked at me and took a picture of me because my jaw was just like hanging down, like my mouth was just wide open because I was so enthralled by their performance.
They're
Unbelievable.
the example of
Same with
that
like
less
21
is
Pilots
more.
too. What'd you say?
They're like a prime example of a band that has less but does more, especially with only two members.
Exactly. It's just like 21 Pilots. Like if you've ever seen them live, it's
Uh,
two people that
three
are
or four times.
completely, yeah, like I saw them in a tiny venue that was like maybe 1,000 cap and it was sold out
Oh
in
wow.
Phoenix. And they still pulled out all the stops. They still did the whole like they put the piece of wood up and like he's drumming on top of it and the crowd is like carrying it around. So he's just like floating around the crowd playing the drums. They did that in a 1,000 cap room, which is just unbelievable to me.
That's incredible.
And then to see them 2 years later just absolutely destroying an arena. And they did it. They like for two people to be able to hold up an arena like that is absolutely incredible.
It's definitely mind blowing.
Yes, it is. I agree. And same thing with Royal Blood. It's like perfect example of less is more. They're both just great players and they're really good at what they do.
First thing I noticed on your playlist as well, big fan of this band, Nothing But Thieves.
Hell yeah.
So into their music the last 5 years. They're somebody I'm dying to get off the bucket list on that one.
Oh, I've never actually seen them live, but I've definitely been a fan for sure.
100%. The new album's amazing.
Oh my God. The songs that I have in my playlist too are just unreal.
Oh yeah. So, but aside going from memory lane, as I'm sure that's going to be the trajectory of change as far as what you want to see this year, I'm curious about for you though, what is the biggest change you do want to see for yourself in 2021?
I've already seen so much change and growth in myself in the last year, just trying to pivot and figure out like how I'm gonna make this music thing work for myself. Which I'm sure all musicians and all artists, even successful ones are trying to figure out. But I think for me, my biggest change is like really focusing on my health and making sure that when things go back to normal, and there is touring, I want to literally be in the best shape of my life, and I want to be prepared to get on the road and play for people and like give them the best show possible. And that's something that I'm really looking forward to, as well as taking time for myself to be as healthy as possible mentally is really important to me. It wasn't important to me in my early 20s because, like you're living for everyone else. You also are like a chicken with your head cut off running around. Like you have no idea who you are or what you're doing or what life is. But now that I feel a little bit more grounded and confident in who I am, I'm definitely very focused on maintaining my mental health, and putting that first before anything else.
Well, I will say this, as far as the shows go, Change Within Podcast, same aspirations. We're opening for you on tour. That's the
Yes,
of this podcast.
let's do it. I love it. Oh my God. And the second act will just be a bunch of drag queens and people will be like, what the fuck is this show? Sorry.
Sounds about right. Sounds about right with my influences.
I don't know if I'm allowed to cuss, but I'm cuss like a sailor. You just bleep me out.
Oh yeah. So that was funny. So okay, before I get myself distracted on this one, because then we could just open up a whole can of words on that. That is the conclusion of tonight's episode of the Change Within Podcast for episode 23 with Luna Aura. So for those who want to check out Change Within Podcast, you can check us out Anchor, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. Luna, thank you so much for joining us and have a great night.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely.